So we are here with the answer key for a whole Lotta side angle side, side side side, and angle side angle practice. Please do remember that there are multiple correct ways to name things, and so you may have the same thought that I am, but just be using a different name for the same thing. An example would be something like, I could call this piece right here the line OL, and if you call it LO, you are still correct. So with that, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're basically asked to prove if these triangles are congruent, and if they are, what method we use to do that. So I'm going to say that ML is congruent to OL. I can see that in the figure. I can say that KL is congruent to NL. I can see that in the figure, and I can also see that I have vertical angles here. So angle KLO is going to be congruent to angle KLO-NLM. And so I do have two sides with an angle trapped in the middle. And so these triangles are congruent because of side, angle, side. So I can say triangle KLO is congruent to triangle NLM because of side, angle, side. On to the next, everyone. I do see that I have parts CF is congruent to EF. I have angle CFD is congruent to angle EFD. And I can see, because of the reflexive property, that FD is congruent to FD. You could also say FD is congruent to DF, whichever of those floats your boat. And so I can see that I do have side, angle, side. I've got the two sides with an angle trapped in the middle, so I can say triangle CFD is congruent to triangle EFD because of side, angle, side. Now again, you could name these differently and still be correct. Part 3, or number 3, I will have angle HEG is congruent to angle FGE. I also see that angle FEG is congruent to angle EGH, or actually HGE is another way to say it. I'll say it that way. And then I can see again, because of the reflexive property, that that is congruent to itself, so EG is congruent to EG. On to number 4. Oh, and that's by angle, side, angle. I have a side trapped between two angles, so angle, side, angle. And then next here, everyone, we have, it looks like I can make the statement that LK is congruent to NM, that I've got NK congruent to LM, and I can see again, because of the reflexive property, that NL is congruent to NL. And so we can make the statement that triangle LNM is congruent to triangle NLK because of side, side, side. Okay, on to number 5. We see that we've got that CD is congruent to DE, that CF is congruent to EF, And as with the last one, I can see that the reflexive property is happening there, so I can say that FD is congruent to FD. And so I do have three sides of each of these triangles. I can say that these triangles are congruent because of side, side, side. Number 6, I have that EF is congruent to GH. I have that angle FEG is congruent to angle HGE. And we can see, because of the reflexive property, that EG is congruent to EG. So for this one, I do have an angle trapped between two sides, and so I can use side, angle, side to prove that these two triangles are congruent. On to the next page, and I think there's actually another page after that one. Crazy, Schlegel. I thought there was only 12 of these. There's actually 16. How about that? Okay, so we have that DR is congruent to PO. We have that angle RDO is congruent to angle POD. And we have the reflexive property here, that DO is congruent to DO. So I do have an angle trapped between two sides. So I've got side, angle, side. And I probably should make a congruent statement about those triangles. I don't remember if I forgot to on the last one. I'll go back and do that. I've got angle DRO, or triangle DRO, is congruent to triangle OPD because of side, angle, side. So I did go back and add the triangle congruence statements on 5 and 6. I did forget to put those on there. So what I can see next, everyone, is I do have that UV is congruent to XV. I have that WV is congruent to TV. And I can see that I do have vertical angles here. So I'm going to have that angle TVU is congruent to angle WVX. And so I can see that I do have side, angle, side here, so I can make the statement that triangle TVU is congruent to triangle WVX because of side, angle, side. Number 9 looks a lot like number 7, except up here we have the short sides, down here we have the long sides, and we've also got different angles. So we will make our statements. We have RO is congruent to PD. We have that angle ROD is congruent to angle PDO. And we can see that because of the reflexive property, that DO is congruent to DO. So we do have a side, an angle, and a side. So we can say that these triangles, triangle ROD is congruent to triangle PDO because of side, angle, side. Number 10, I have my statements will be that EF, no, I can't say anything about EF. HE is congruent to FG. That angle HEG is congruent to angle FGE. And that because of the reflexive property, EG is congruent to EG. So I can say that triangle HEG is congruent to triangle FGE because of side, angle, side. On to number 11, we have that angle CFD is congruent to angle EFD. We have that angle CDF is congruent to angle EDF. And we can say that FD is congruent to FD because of the reflexive property. And so I do have the information I need to be able to say that because of angle side angle, triangle CDF is congruent to triangle EDF because of angle side angle. Moving on to number 12, we see that we have EF is congruent to GH. We see that angle EFG is congruent to angle GHE. And we see that the only other thing we can tell is that EG is congruent to EG because of the distributive property. The distributive property? Did I just say that? Because of the reflexive property. So we see here, everyone, that we do not have an angle trapped between those two sides. If we did have the angle that we wanted, it would have to be this angle right here. We don't know that one, and we can't invent it or like say, oh, that must be the case. So because we don't have that angle, we need to say that we have a condition where we have side-side angle, and so there is not enough information we would need to know that angle FEG was congruent to angle HGE. And we don't. Okay. So number 12 is not enough information one. Let's move on to 13, 14, 15, 16. We'll get these hammered out here. So I see that I have, for this one, that angle KOL is congruent to angle NML. I also see that I have vertical angles here. So angle KLO is congruent to angle NLM. And my hunch, my gut, I want to say that this side is congruent to this side, but I can't do that. So we're going to have to take that off because I have no evidence of that. I also want to say that this side is congruent to this side, but I have no evidence of that, so I have to take that off. And so for this one, this is another situation where we do not have enough information, so not enough info. We would need the side that is trapped by those two angles. So even if we knew this side right here, it would not work using the three theorems that we already know. So we would have to know that this side was the same length as that side. We don't know that. And so not enough info, we would need to know that OL is congruent to ML, and we don't. Okay, 14. We see that we have the side NM is congruent to KL. We see that angle MNL is congruent. MNL is congruent to KLN. And we see that NL is congruent to NL because of the reflexive property. So I can make the statement because of that triangle MNL is congruent to triangle KLN because of side angle side. Number 15, I can see that we know that angle UTV is congruent to angle XWV. And I can see that the side WV is congruent to the side TV. Then I also see that I have vertical angles here. So we can make the statement that angle TVU is congruent to angle WVX. And so because of that, we can use angle side angle. For this one, we do have a side trap between two angles, so we can prove congruence with angle side angle. Lastly, everyone, this is the last one in this set. We do have that angle KNL is congruent to angle MLN. And we do have that angle MNL is congruent to angle KLN. And then we do see that NL is congruent to NL because of the reflexive property. So we do have a side trapped between two angles. We can use angle side angle for that one. This is going to be it for that. And I should make a statement about the triangle congruence. I forgot to do it for both number 15 and 16. I'm going to do that and put it up on the answer key as the PDF, but I'm not going to do that for the video. I hope this is helpful, everyone, and I hope you have an awesome day.